Hello, Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas. It's 7 p.m. here. I had to reboot. I had a couple things pulled up on the computer here, and then I noticed that the microphone was not responding. The graph, wasn't going over the way it should. And I rebooted. Now I see that now it is. But I think I lost the two items that I was going to show you. I think. But we'll just work with what we got. Let's see. Someone left a thing on Quora, and I can't find it. Left a right-wing person, a Republican, left a thing. I forget what I can't find that now. Wish I hadn't lost it, because I'm sure a liberal Democrat answered the guy back, and wow, I mean, this long. The facts about Republican presidents versus, Democratic presidents. And I wish I could find that, but I can't. If I happen to run across it, I'll come later and put the link below. But pretty amazing. Well, let's see. This is my Quora site. I spent years, I spent way too much time every day reading the questions and the answers here on this site. I mean, I used up a lot of time. I finally had to stop. Too much time spent there. I remember, I think I mentioned this before in a video or two. I just happened to stumble across this thing years ago, and somebody what it is people ask a question, or maybe tell a statement or something, but and then somebody comes in and answers them, and they're put together. Now, of course, when the Republican right-wing extremism, and the recent, political seasons, some people, by the way, it turned out that a bunch of these people who have left things, saying, oh, I'm a Republican, and, Bush this, or Trump, that kind of stuff. It turns out they're Russian trolls and other, groups like that. And two, they're not very effective. Well, of course, they're probably effective with their followers, with the, Trump crowd. But somebody always, responds and puts the correct information below. And somebody left a, 1 or 2 line thing saying, how come the Democrats don't do such and such or know such and such, or how come they don't know, what's going on? And this person, man, he left a tremendous, all the details. He did he looked all the stuff up and had all the details. I wish I could find it. Let's see, Jim Howard's post. Okay. People, earnings, settings. Okay, I can't find my post, by the way. Must be following answers. Maybe that's it. No, it's not. Questions for you. Answer request. Okay, no, that's not it. Okay, well, bummer. Somebody left a comment on my YouTube site here and said that they also liked the movie that I recommended, Baghdad Cafe. And the person was 10 years younger than I am and an Australian, or well, it doesn't necessarily have to be an Australian, but he's from Australia or in Australia. And he left a good comment. Some people just leave, which is okay. I welcome all comments, but he left a nice comment about Baghdad Cafe, and then he recommended The Man from Earth. And if you've read my YouTube site, watched whatever, I have mentioned that movie a number of times, and it's a fantastic movie. I've watched it I don't know how many times. A great movie. So, and then I recommended Walkabout in the comment that I replied to him, saying that I liked Walkabout and I had watched it many, many, many times. And I had thought about, downloading the movie and going in and editing out a few little tiny clips, because the guy did a great job on the movie. Acting and everything was well done. But the director of it, there was like Aborigines hunting or killing food, and that clip is shown, them killing the animals or whatever, and then a short clip is shown of like a butcher shop in Melbourne or of Australians, getting their pork chops or whatever, and several things were like that. And what I would have done if I'd have, got the video, is I would have edited out those little tiny clips, just because it wasn't necessary. You don't need to. The viewers of that movie, and probably almost any movie, are not so stupid that you have to put that in there to show them, yes, the Aborigines or Australian hunters or whatever they're doing, they're getting food, and you don't need to show it's the same as these, white people in some city there. So I would edit that out. So let's see. I'm not going to find. Well, here's the kind of, here's the kind of stuff that you have turn up, somebody will leave something like this, which you can read yourself. And you see a lot of things like, like this. A couple of weeks ago, actually it's longer than that because it's May, but this boy, a couple of weeks ago, I was teary-eyed. Carson came in and asked what was wrong. I read him a Facebook post about a mother of a 16-year-old girl with special needs looking for a date for her daughter to go to her school prom. And he said, Mom, I will do it. Anyway, so there's a lot of stuff like, a lot of good stuff here. But come on, if you're part of the, Trump group, just don't leave the stupid ass things that they, well, like I said, a tremendous number of those are things to divide us, being left by Russian trolls or whatever you would call them. But, if you want to leave, if you've got a point and substance to it and, whatever, go ahead and leave the question. But what they, I've seen this before too. Both these girls, I think, have cancer. And maybe you can tell one is black and one is white. And they're in the hospital together. And, they're hugging each other, and they don't see, their friends. They don't see any difference, they're just, here's the kind of stuff that people leave. There's a bunch of those on Quora. Is the arrest and the prosecution of Trump proof that the Democratic Party is attempting to make a one-party state? And then somebody comes in and answers, the stupid-ass person who left that question. Now, somebody left a question here. What happens if you hit a car in a parking lot and you provide the owner blah, 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 blah? I've got, let's see, where in the hell are, I didn't answer that question, but I remember saying this one before, too. A mother was trying to come up with a stroller that her son, who has problems in mobility, and whatever store they were in, and I forget, the employees went over and got piping and what have you, and made it for the kid and gave it to the kid. Here's another one of these things that you get, and it's just, they're, the Republican little clique. No, it's not a little clique, it's a lot of people. But they post these insanely stupid things. And, of course, somebody always comes back and corrects them and makes them look totally, totally stupid for doing it. Now, the trolls are being paid, by the Russian government or whatever to do this, to divide us. And they're going to keep, of course, doing it. Well, of course, the Republican group is going to keep on. Where in the heck are my answers that I... Let's see. Okay, my comments and stats. Let's see if... Okay. Your content and stats. Have you guys heard the rumor about... Nah, okay. I would not have answered this, Okay, I think I found it. I would not have answered this. 15 views and 2 upvotes. I'm not sure why it pops in my here. Let's here. Also, how much do you love your pets? I don't think I would have answered that. It's got 32 views. Okay, here's one that I wrote. So let me show you that somebody can, somebody can post a question that they really want the answer to and are looking for information. And I'm going to use myself as, an example. Okay, this has received 740 views. Can cops park in front of the hospital's main entrance? And this is, me answering. No hospital security officer is going to object to the parking. Hell, they are the police. They should not block a fire lane. Fire equipment needs to get access to several areas of the hospital. Police may be called to the hospital. They may have to respond to get information for a report. Often police officers will be a patient in the hospital. They may have been injured in the line of duty, and a lot of officers show up. They often overdo the visiting and the parking. There are problems from time to time with police parking. Sometimes the police come in unmarked police vehicles. Sometimes they tell security. Sometimes they don't tell security. As an example, I was in the front parking lot and my shift supervisor came out to talk to me. There was a light rain coming down. A guy on a motorcycle pulled into the lot and parked at the front entrance under the little roof area. My supervisor said, "Tell him to move." I said, "It will be okay." He said, "He can't park there." So I told the guy to move his bike. The guy moved his bike. Right away, another guy with a motorcycle pulled in his bike into the almost same spot. I headed over to tell him to move. My supervisor said, "No, Jim, he can park there." The supervisor said, "That is the son of the director of security, and his son is a police officer." The son was not on duty, of course. So the guy I made move his bike came over and started yelling at me. I told him, "Talk to my supervisor." The hospital I worked at had a police computer in dispatch. We could run people and tags. Just as an example, I was in dispatch by the ER doors, and the shift supervisor came to dispatch and said, "Call the police and have that car out in the ER drive ticketed." I said, "I think that's a police car." He said, "It is not." I said, "I'm pretty sure." He said, "Just ticket it." I turned on our closed, well, it was always on, but I turned on the closed circuit TV camera on the car, zoomed in on the tag, then I ran the tag, and it came back as a police car. So, of course, I did not call the police. And later, the supervisor asked, and I told him I did not call. It was a police car. Hospitals are big, and there's lots of things going on. One time, I worked at a hospital, and there was a certain area by the front entrance that some vehicles parked there would have their car exhaust pulled into the air system of the hospital and make people sick. We watched that area. Most of the time it would be a truck, but one time I got a call of people feeling sick in such and such an area. I went to the entrance and there was a police K9 unit parked there with the motor running. I guess AC to keep the dog cool. I had to have the officer paged, and I get to him and get him to move his car. I, of course, told him I'm sorry and explained the reason. He was nice, and it was not a problem. Most police officers respect hospital security. We had to deal with them, and they had to deal with us. It may not be like this all the time and in different areas of the nation. Let's see. Okay, I can go back. If I get back to the same place. Do police respond? Okay, this got 2,000. No, what is it? what is that, 2,000 or 2 million, I don't know, 2.6K. Anyway, do police respond to accidents that happen in parking lots? Okay, 3 upvotes. This is from 2019, by the way. This is going to depend on the state and state law, and it will depend on local laws and on police departments. In Kansas City, Missouri, police do not take reports on private property unless it is a hit and run accident or an injury accident, or if drugs or ETOH is involved. There might be other things that I'm not aware of regarding a city officer taking a report. My guess is if a city vehicle, a city government vehicle was in the accident, they might. I worked in hospital security for 30 plus years. My nose is running. It did not run for 30 years, but it runs now. We took the accident reports. One time there was a federal government employee, and she had an accident in our parking lot. I told her I would be taking the report. She demanded that the Kansas City PD come and take the report. I told her they do not take the reports. She was very upset and loud. I told her she could have someone come from the federal government, like a federal protective officer, and take a report. She demanded the city police. I had her call KCPD dispatch, and they told her they did not take reports on private property. By the way, this lady was EPO, let's see, what is the agency that, Equal Opportunity Employment or something, rather, a federal agency, I believe, or maybe just something that was funded by the, and so she was, in her line of her duty, by the way, doing her job. But she was a fucking asshole, because I ran into her several times. And, right-wing people and racist people sometimes bring up, situations or people or something, rather. And this lady was arrogant, she was, I'm a government, I guess she was, she was a federal government employee, man. I wish I could say, and she had, when I handled this situation, I was late getting into a training course that was going on that was being held in human resources in our hospital. And it was all nursing supervisors. Well, not all the nursing supervisors, but it was a bunch of nursing supervisors that were taking this course. And I was also taking, because I was a security supervisor, I was taking the thing. And I went in, and I said to the director of human resources, I said, I'm sorry I'm late. I had to deal with a lady out in the parking lot, man. I said, man, she was horrible. She was demanding that the police come and take a report. And I tried to explain to her, I said that, the police don't come and take reports on private property. And he said, was that? And then he gave her name. And I said, yeah. And he says, I guess at that point I didn't, okay, well, she works for the Equal Opportunity Employment Agency or something like that. And he says, she is a horrible person. She comes in and yells and screams here at us and demands, makes demands. I want to see these records right now. I want this, and this isn't right and everything. And he said, he said, I'm sorry you had to deal with her. I said, I'm sorry I had to deal with her too. But she went on, moved up in the local, well, this was a federal job that she had, but she moved up, and I think she ran for political office, because I would see her name occasionally, in Kansas City, Missouri. And then she ran for mayor, and she wasn't she didn't get get elected. But if you're in some position, like she was in, think of all the now, believe me, I know, that there are, because I've talked about that on videos on here where I had to deal with racism from even my director of security there. I was just a security supervisor, and I had to, I ended up having to be responsible for firing a couple of security officers who I had explained to them, I've talked about that, so I won't talk about that again. And the director of security and I went round and round, and he, but so I know that kind of stuff happens. But this lady, she wasn't, maybe she might have helped some people who were unfairly fired or things like that, because but I think she did more damage than she helped, and she gave a whole bunch of people something that they could come back and, say that they had to, like when OSHA first started, I was working, as a Boilermaker and as a welder and working where we needed OSHA. And of course, Republicans hate OSHA, Occupational Safety Health Act. I mean, I worked at a Texaco refinery that was being built in Convent, Louisiana, and I went down there. And that was before OSHA. And if you've seen refineries, and I climbed, up every day to weld and climbed down. I had a safety belt, but it wasn't a safety belt that you could hook on as you went up. It was when you climbed to the top, and it was just rungs. You weren't enclosed in a cage or anything like that. I could tie myself off at the top, but that was before OSHA. But I heard, and some people might have, some corporation person might have come up with these stories, but they could have been true also, that when OSHA first started, the OSHA inspectors would come out to make sure the rules were being followed, safety rules or whatever. And that I remember this one guy saying, I don't think he said to me personally, I think it might have been on something like this Quora thing. He said that the OSHA investigators came out and it was with electrical cables. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they weren't plugged in or something, or they didn't have the correct prong that they needed on the end or something, and these were brand new, had been ordered in or something, And, the inspector supposedly just took and cut the ends off of these cords. But I don't know if that to me doesn't sound, but if it was, there is an overstep, of, that kind of stuff does happen, I'm sure. Okay, I want to go back. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute, I can slide this over so you can read it, by the way. There we go, a little bit, because we got my big old picture up there. You don't need to see that. Okay, go back. Okay, we covered, do police respond to accidents in parking lots? Okay, I don't know what this is. Okay. Come on here, let's go down a little bit here. What? Why aren't you going down? Do police catch people using, how do police catch people using a handicapped parking spot when they aren't handicapped? Okay, this is my comment. I think most people do not understand how handicap parking works. You need to have a license plate that shows that you have a disability, or you need to have a permanent or temporary parking permit that you permit that that your permit uh, that your permit you need to have on display. Okay. I'm not sure if the laws are the same in all states, but in Missouri, the police can go on private property and ticket cars that are parked in a handicapped parking space. So the police can drive into a shopping mall parking lot, a church parking lot, or a hospital parking lot, and they can ticket a car in a handicapped parking space. I worked at a small hospital in a small town for years. The police did not ticket cars unless security called them. Then a police supervisor started putting tickets on cars in the hospital parking lot. I attempted to tell the officer that the best idea might be to not do that and wait until asked by security. He informed me, by the way, he informed me that he had the power to ticket any car parked in a handicapped space without the right tag or permit. And I explained, I guess I understand that, but, it might, but anyway. Not long after that, a man drove into the hospital parking lot, parked in a handicapped parking spot, no tag or permit. He walked in the hospital door and dropped over dead. The police supervisor came driving through the parking lot and put a ticket on his car. That was the last time they ticketed any car in the hospital parking lot. There are just so many problems that come up from handicapped parking. I think most people think that if they have someone that is disabled, you can just use those parking spaces. Also, I've seen people tell someone that you can park in a handicapped parking space and then they get a ticket. The person that parked there, by the way. You may have someone that is an employee at a mall or business, and someone may ask them where to park, and the employee may say, you can park in that spot, a handicapped space, and the person gets a ticket. On a related subject, I had a lady tell me that she could not get a parking permit because her doctor charged $15 to fill out the form. I understand that it takes doctor's staff time to fill out the form. I do not think a doctor's office should charge to fill out one. Then you have the problem that's been talked about a lot here on Quora, and that is people saying, you don't look disabled. And, okay. Let's see if I have another one. Okay, I think there should be more, but I can't get to it. Well, anyway, I guess that's enough. Like I said before, great movie, Walkabout. Okay, oh, here's one. I haven't answered this one, and I worked mall security, by the way, full-time for a year in Miami at Christmas time. And someone asked, what is it like working mall security during the holidays? It is terrible, especially regarding, parking is unbelievable. And people will park on sidewalks. People will park, behind people. I mean, just, I also worked hospital security as a secondary job. I worked hospital security 30 years, and then for quite a few years I worked for Burns, Pinkerton, Wells Fargo, or some other private contract security company. and that was a second job for me. And I worked mall security. I remember working mall security when Jaws came out, and they had contract security there, but they also had 2 Overland Park police officers there, and those guys sat in the security office, and I was out patrolling the mall, and they basically said, except they both went together to see Jaws. That's when it first came out, and so they spent an hour and a half or whatever that was, and they so what are the advantages or benefits of being a mall cop? Well, I wouldn't call you a mall cop. I'll mention this because nobody believes it, and you wouldn't believe it if you were in another state, any state, and maybe another city. In Kansas City, Missouri, private security officers. Now, I stopped, I retired from that after 30 years in Kansas City. But, so I don't know what might have been changed, what law might have been changed. But in Kansas City, Missouri, because of corruption in the past, the state of Missouri passed, a law taking over the taking over the police department, basically. Didn't take it over, but what they did is appointed a board of police commissioners to do, and that took care of that eventually. I'm sure it didn't happen immediately. So, but the board of police commissioners then at some point created a private officers commissioning unit under the board of police commissioners. And so which is unusual, believe me, because I've mentioned something before, like on my WordPress thing, or maybe even in these YouTube videos, and sometimes several people will say, that's a bunch of bullshit, you don't, but yeah, the private security officers in Kansas City, Missouri, we had full police powers on our property, and we could do hot pursuits, which I really did not think was a good idea. And then eventually, after I retired in 2000, at the mall or at the hospital that I was working at, a mental patient took off and ran over to Swope Park, which was, I don't know, a mile or a little bit over a mile. He got over there, and a security officer, behind him, and then of course the security officer got him, and there was a little bit of wrestling, going on, and then a supervisor from Research Medical Center took one of our patrol cars over and went over and got over there, and the guy, the mental patient, broke the supervisor's arm and took the patrol car. Our patrol car that had lights, it did not have siren on it. We did not have sirens, but I think we had red lights on it, I believe. I can't remember. I know we had lights on it, on the car. But anyway, this guy took the patrol car, broke the supervisor's arm, and then took off on 435. Anyway, he had to get up onto 435, high rate of speed with police cars following the security car, and then the guy got onto I-70, and he was heading from Kansas City, Missouri to St. Louis, and I don't know where the police finally got him. But the Private Officers Commissioning Unit issued a new directive, and that was that security officers in Kansas City, Missouri could not do hot pursuit with a vehicle. You could still do hot pursuit on foot, but not with a vehicle, which was a good idea, Oh, here's an interesting, I never read any of these things, by the way. I understand that malls have security. Would I be allowed to go into the mall and volunteer as security, meaning go in and do it? Or would there be liability? Oh, God, there'd be liability. Yes, believe me, there would be liability. The mall security, they have a bunch of rules, like you don't get involved in, shoplifting unless you have to. I mean, if an employee in, uh, some Sears or some place, they have security. The company, some do and some don't. But they don't want mall security. The mall security don't want to have their people going into these situations because lawsuits, would be big time. Unless something's, I mean, if somebody has a gun or whatever, Can I call the police for someone simply coming on my property? How would you feel about someone drifting in an empty parking lot at night for fun? I guess drifting probably means something. Doing wheelies or doing something, yeah. This is an interesting question, do police interrogations, do the police officers offer soda to suspects for subsequent testing of the can or bottle for DNA? Anyway, I answered some other questions and did a good job on those, but I don't see how to get to them, Okay. I have made a video about McCormick, McConnell. In Iran, if a 12-year-old girl is raped and impregnated by her father, she must carry the baby to term or else be thrown in prison for life. Wait, sorry, no, that's Alabama. Now, I don't know about this. I mean, I know that I would double check that. I find that hard to believe that does it say that, all 16 members of Congress from Florida voted against federal disaster relief for their own state. I find that hard to believe. So that's something that would need to be, something need to be checked. But I do know Oklahoma got hit a few years back by more than one, a tornado comes through, boom, tears the hell out of Oklahoma. Next season and one comes through, whatever. And, the Congress, got disaster relief and for Oklahoma repeatedly. I think one town was hit like twice. One city was hit like twice. But when a tornado hit, was it New York State? Someplace like that, all the Republican members of Congress from Oklahoma, well, I don't know whether all of them did, but they refused to, vote to send aid to various other states. So, I tell you, Republicans, there's something else. Here's the type of questions I've told you about that are left a lot of times by trolls, not even the people in the United States. Is the Fox coverage of Biden family crimes a distraction from the ongoing trial of the Trump family crime? Oh, okay, somebody. Well, at least, okay, maybe that one's, there is no, Biden family crimes, and what there is being investigated. Trump's son whatever he's accused of is being thoroughly investigated. And Trump's son-in-law that got what was it, $1 billion or $2 billion from Saudi Arabia, given to him. That's not being investigated at all. So here you go. I ought to copy this. Let's see, where can I save? Let's see if I can save this to, okay, I don't think it's going to save the picture, I don't think. Well, let me put it on desktop. But I haven't had a chance to read it, but I mean, I can, yeah, it's copying the page. Maybe still I can go over there and copy it. Let's see. Thank a Democrat and vote blue. Thank a Democrat. 4. Social Security, Medicare, Veterans Administration civil rights, women's suffrage, affordable health care, Peace Corps, minimum wage, unemployment insurance, investment in green technology and infrastructure, Fair Pay Act, overtime, child labor laws, Medicaid, Americans with Disability Act, Voting Rights Act, and that's all true. Anyway, I guess I've been rambling too long about this. The trolls, of course, in Russia and China, I guess, and probably North Korea or something, that post things which are pretty transparent, That's not going to, they're doing what their government wants in order to stir up, problems here. And if you don't know the history of that, recent history of that Russia and whatever, they paid people to post on Quora things, against to post black things, anti-black things, and anti-Jewish. They did all this kind of stuff just to stir up, to get people, yeah, whatever, and then leaving comments, like, yeah, black people need to go to prison and blah, 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 and all this kind of, and it was, people outside the United States, doing that kind of stuff. And then, but we have enough of our own people in here that leave stupid shit, Anyway, thank you very much for watching.